Washington. One of President Trump's federal judge nominees has withdrawn after he was unable to answer basic questions during his confirmation hearing about the courtroom process, showed little familiarity with federal trial rules, and acknowledged that he had never prosecuted or defended a case. A clip of the exchange between the nominee, Matthew Peterson, and Senator John N. Kennedy, Republican of Louisiana, became a viral sensation and drew ridicule across the internet. Mr. Peterson's withdrawal over the weekend was the third nomination by Mr. Trump to collapse in recent days. Last week, the White House pulled back two other federal district court nominees who had attracted controversy, Jeff Mateer and Brett Talley. Mr. Talley also had scant trial experience and apparently defended the early Ku Klux Klan under a pseudonym on a sports website. Mr. Mateer once described transgender children as proof of Satan's plan. The departures were an embarrassment for the White House, which was responsible for vetting the prospective jurists, at the end of what has otherwise been a year of success on judicial nominations for Mr. Trump. He has rapidly begun reshaping higher levels of the federal bench by appointing deeply conservative judges. Following a strategy outlined by Donald F. McGahn II, the White House counsel, Mr. Trump and the Republican majority in the Senate moved swiftly to install Justice Neil M. Gorsuch in a vacant Supreme Court seat and then appointed a dozen appeals court judges, a modern record for a president this early in his tenure. But the energy and attention that Mr. Trump's legal team spent on filling vacancies in the upper ranks of the judiciary with powerhouse conservatives may have left less time for vetting nominees for the federal district court, where ideology is less important. In those courts, judges run trials rather than set legal precedent, and home state senators traditionally wield far greater influence over the process of filling district court benches than higher courts. Mr. Trump has nominated about 36 district court judges, but only 6 have been appointed. Several of his trial court nominees have come under fire for lack of experience out of the mainstream statements or poor preparation for the confirmation process, fueling a competing narrative that Mr. Trump is putting up unqualified nominees. In a statement, Senator Dianne Feinstein of California, the ranking Democrat on the Judiciary Committee, said Mr. Peterson was clearly not qualified and that there was no room for on-the-job training on the bench in the nation's capital, where he had been nominated to serve. 3 Trump judicial nominees are now reported to have withdrawn over the past week, she said. This is a clear signal that the White House isn't properly vetting nominees but instead counting on Senate Republicans to jam them through with minimal review. At last week's hearing, Mr. Kennedy grilled Mr. Peterson about basic legal issues and procedures that trial judges routinely deal with, including pretrial motions on whether to exclude types of evidence and standards regarding expert witnesses. Mr.